Welcome to the Caribbean Edge. My name is Dawn Wilson. I'm your host for tonight as we talk about incarceration. I want to welcome the viewers and I want to thank you first and foremost for joining us for such an important topic and for also my guests who have volunteered to join us this evening to talk about incarceration, what happened before, what happened during, and what happened after, and where they are in their life. Is there second chances? Now, the United States has the largest prison population in the world. So that's a good starting point for us, but we're gonna get deep and personal with my guests. So tonight I do have with us, and I wanna welcome Mr. Calvin Dudley. Nice to have you. And we also have Dr. Ron Garrett. Good evening, Mr. Garrett. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, everybody.
Thank you. And also Miss Victoria Pryor, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
And Miss Nikki Nelson. And also Mr. Julius Campbell. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. Welcome.
And thank you for sharing such a personal journey with us. I want to start by asking each of the guests to just tell us a little bit about themselves, their names, probably where you're from, and, family. What's your family life like? Let's start with Mr. Dudley.
Mr. Dudley, okay. My name is Calvin Dudley. I live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I'm married to Alice, and we both have our foundation. She has AJL Foundation. She feeds the homeless, and my foundation is CDSL Calvin Dudley Senior. What we do, we pamper seniors, we honor seniors, we wash their feet, we do it all. Now, my marriage life is very simple. I keep things very simple. I'm an outdoor individual, love the ocean, love walking through the woods and the park. And I love communicating with people. So life is good. I have 3 children, 15 grands and 6 great grands. So I'm pretty active with them. Other than that, I work with my foundation. Matter of fact, I just finished doing a presentation before we aired. It started at 6 o'clock. So I'm pretty busy with life, love life, and enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dudley, or Calvin. I'm just going to call you Calvin. Because you laughed when I said Mr. Dudley. I guess it's way too formal.
Yeah, Calvin.
But welcome again. How about you, Dr. Garrett?
How's everybody tonight? Again, my name is Ron Garrett. I'm originally from Greensboro, North Carolina, as you probably can tell from a little bit of an accent. But I now live in the Maryland, Washington, D.C., Virginia area. I'm serve as the founder and CEO of Reentry United, which is a national coalition of reentry organizations across the United States, as well as the co-chair for RAN Prince George's County, which is the Reentry Action Network of Prince George's County. And I'm gonna leave it at that for the moment.
Wow.
Okay, thank you so much. And we definitely want to learn more about the reentry program as well. And Miss Victoria, welcome.
Welcome again. Good evening, everyone. My name is Victoria Pryor, and I'm a former professional tennis player, graduate of the University of Miami. So very excited to be here tonight. I'm currently in the Georgetown Pivot program, and I am a very active person within the community of Washington, D.C. I'm a Washingtonian, and I also have a podcast that I'm a part of, which is Returning Citizens for Returning Citizens. The lead liaison is Dr. Ronald Garrett, very good friend and liaison with the mass incarceration movement for returning citizens. I'm currently, the Georgetown Pivot program focuses on returning citizens, helping their business skill sets and tools, and developing entrepreneurship ideas. They think that is very important, and they choose people within the community that they feel will be leaders. So for me right now, I'm doing a internship with Dick's Sporting Goods on community marketing management. Very exciting because Dick's Sporting Goods really focuses on making sure that they help this gap within the community of having resources for organizations, sports organizations, and they have aligned themselves with the Georgetown Pivot Program for second chance employment with allowing us to do internships. So I'm very excited about this role as a community marketing manager. And I just want to continue to give back to the community and help other returning citizens know that there is progression when you leave incarceration, and I'll leave it there.
Wow.
Thank you. And I'm so amazed. I'm so impressed. Georgetown and a second chance program. So we'll definitely need to know more about that as well, Victoria. Thank you for joining us. And Miss Nikki.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nikki Nelson. I am from Pompano Beach, Florida. Originally, I reside now in Tampa, Florida. Been here almost about 10 years. I work, I just retired on September the 25th. I worked in customer service since I've, left incarceration. I worked in customer service for the last 20 years. And I have 3 children. I have 3 grandchildren. And now I just try to, I do motivational speaking when someone asks me to, in the church setting, wherever I can be of help at. And now I go and I do outreach at the Metropolitan Ministries here in Tampa. But since the pandemic, so we haven't been able to do a lot of, volunteering hand on hand. And I'm a AME. I go to church, love the Lord. And that's where my faith comes from.
Thank you, Miss Nikki. And we're going to end the introductions with Mr. Julius Campbell. Tell us about you, Julius.
Well, good evening. My name is Julius Campbell. I am a minister, mentor, motivational speaker, and I'm also on the team with Dr. Garrett of Reentry United. And I've been home now nearly 2 years after a 26-year time in prison. And I'm just grateful to be able to share my story.
Thank you. And we're going to start with you, Julius. Tell us about those 26 years. Now, why were you incarcerated for 26 years?
I was incarcerated for 26 years because I took the life of another young man. When I was 20 years old, I was in the streets doing, what 20-year-olds, what negative 20-year-olds do, and just getting caught up. And in my life, I didn't plan to do wrong, but one thing I've learned, wrong always plans to do you. So while I was out selling drugs, one thing led to another, and a young man lost his life. And 26 years of a wilderness experience has brought me to where I am today. Not perfect, but consistent.
Okay, so when you say you were out in the streets, because if our youth is listening to this or parents are listening to this, out in the streets, what were you doing out in the streets? And was it self-defense or what happened?
Oh, no. I was raised by a single parent mother. And as a young man, most of us, we feel that it is our responsibility to make money. And so while I was out there trying to make money the wrong way, I started selling drugs. And as I was selling drugs, my crowd changed to a negative crowd. And while I was out doing negative things, any person knows that there's a biblical scripture. I heard Miss Nikki say that she has faith. It says, evil community or communication corrupts good habits. So my life began to go down a dark spiral. And so as I sold drugs, I began to say, I want to take from other people. And so I was in the midst of I guess you would say, I was going to get some drugs. And my thought process was to take them. And in doing so, a young man lost his life.
Thank you for that. So Take us back to that day, Julius. And I know everyone on this panel has said that there's no questions off limits as well. So viewers, if you have questions, please feel free to ask. And if they're for someone specific, please state that in the chat as well, because I will check the chat. But Julius, tell us, when this happened, were you using drugs as well?
Well, in my day, marijuana, we didn't think was drugs, but yes, I used to smoke marijuana, not crack or any of those other things, but I used to smoke marijuana. And one thing I want to qualify as I share my story, I don't ever share my story in arrogance. I share my story in humility, because many people were hurt. I destroyed many people's lives. So if I can say anything to young men and women, is think about what you're doing, because your choices don't just affect you. And in my situation, my choices affected 2 families, and a young man lost his life at an early age. And so another thing that I share is that our thought process when we're young is not mature. We are mostly thinking about right now. And that's what my thought process was. I just simply thought about the now and then. I did not think of consequences. And if I had thought of consequences, then of course I would never have done what I did. But as I stated earlier, when you don't think about the consequences, you just do what you do. And sadly, we are raising a generation that don't think about consequences, but they are thinking about right now. And that causes a lot of damage. And as Dr. Garrett will share you, that's where we get mass incarceration from, not thinking.
Okay, so you mentioned your mom as well, and thank you for that, because yes, your lives, you impacted so many lives then, the young man that you took or young woman's life, their entire family and friends, yes, as well as your family as well. So you mentioned a single mom. Tell us about your mom and what she went through with you during that time. I mean, if my son told me that he was doing this, that this happened, I can't imagine as a mom the devastation. I probably have some denial as well that my son could do this. Did you experience that with your mom? Did you ever talk about it?
Yes, it was years before my mother really understood what I had done, because like most mothers, they don't know, or like most parents, they don't know what their children are doing. And so when the police came to my house and told her what I was being arrested for, she could not fathom that that was something that I was doing. And so being raised by a single parent mother, my mother and father divorced at a young age. And I am grateful now that I have a beautiful relationship with both my mother and my father. But at that time, they were both young. My mother had me when she was 16, and she did all she could to raise me correctly. She's now a pastor. Actually, she was a minister at that time. Nevertheless, though, a young man, he's a male in his life. And so she did everything that she could to raise me. But a lot of parents don't know what their children are doing. And not just my mother. If I may, I am grateful to be able to share this in my story. My reality is not many other people's reality, but the mother of the young man whose life I took, she has forgiven me. And I am very grateful for that, because I was ignorant and self-destructive when I was young. But over the course of my wilderness experience and my faith, I matured, and I believe that other people saw that. And too often we are judged by our mistakes without giving an opportunity to show that we can grow from those mistakes. And that's what the prison system does. The prison system only sees who you were, never who you are. And I'm grateful now that people see me for who I am and not who I was.
Okay. And at what point did the mom of the person whose life you took forgive you? Was it during the trial, years later?
Oh, it was years later. And that's understandable, because in people's life, when someone is hurt, at that moment, forgiveness is not at the forefront of their mind. They're trying to heal themselves. But over the course of some years, prayer, and of course, I believe that when I say we, those of us that have been incarcerated, we are not the victims, we have victims. Those of us that have been incarcerated, if we help with the healing process by transforming our lives, then I don't believe it would take as long as some forgiveness process takes. And in this case, she forgave me. It was, I guess, in the middle of my 26 years. And I'm so grateful for her and her family doing that.
Yeah, I can just imagine that takes quite a heavy load off you, having someone forgive you for, taking the life of their child. I mean, I can't imagine. I honestly can't.
That speaks to the character of the individual, and especially a mother. That speaks to how her faith, because she is a woman of faith also. And as I'm sure some of the rest of the panelists would speak to, by yourself, that's difficult. But when you have faith, then you're not doing it by yourself. Your values, in my case, Christ, helps you to do those things that are necessary. And in her case, and her family, they are a faith-filled family. And so with Christ's help, she forgave me. And that was a part of the impetus that got me to be the man that I am today.
Yeah. So have you ever seen her face to face since then?
No, actually, I haven't. I talked to her on the phone when I was incarcerated, but I haven't seen her face to face. And maybe that day will come. I actually desire that day to come, but still, forgiveness is one thing, but there's still a process of healing that goes along with that. So I believe that the Lord knows when that time is right, it will happen.
Okay. Now, did you reach out to her? Did you write her letters from jail, or how did you start communicating with each other?
Actually, no, I didn't. And in some cases, that's not a good thing. When you're incarcerated, those of us who are felons or who are incarcerated, we are forbidden to reach out to those that we've harmed, or to the victims. If you do, then the parole board can make you do more time, or you can get in trouble for that. So many people who want, and I qualify and stress this, there are many men and women who are in prison that have changed and really desire to reach out to their victims for reconciliation, if you will. Because there are some victims who just think that that person don't care, they haven't reached out to me. But that's not the case. We are forbidden to do that. So in my case, no, I didn't. However, here's where faith comes into that picture. My mother, as a minister, went to a Christian retreat, and the girlfriend of the young man had also been at that retreat. And those two met and they talked. And then my mother shared with her I guess you would call it transformation. And she began to inquire and see that transformation. And then she told the mother and the family. And that's how that happened. But, and I interject that because there are men and women who want to make it right, even if it's just to say, I'm sorry. And I believe that if a victim hears that, that will help in their healing process also, when it's genuine.
And when the time is right.
And when the time is right.
Like you said, initially she would not have been able to accept that without the pain that she was going through.
Right.
Thank you, Julius. I will certainly come back to you because I want to know so much more, and I want to also take some questions from the viewers as well. Yes. But thank you. Mm-hmm. Miss Victoria.
Yeah.
So tell us about your life before. I know you mentioned that you were a professional tennis player, college graduate.
Yes. So my life before is after playing professional tennis, I was able to attain a position with Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, very prestigious company. For over 7 years, I was doing sales and marketing. And then I started to work for a marketing company doing more sports at the time. And I began to get very involved in real estate, studying to get my real estate license and trying to learn some knowledge about it. It was in 2008. And I had a very successful career, very focused individual, no blemishes, life was very good, worked very hard, good support system with my family. And by getting into real estate, I chose to be with some business partners and trusting the wrong people and having the lack of knowledge. Just because you are a business major or you've been successful in sales and marketing with various companies doesn't mean that you have the amount of knowledge that's needed when you start to have a business on your own and you become an investor and you begin to have your name on paperwork. Some people may be familiar that are listening. When you develop an LLC and you have multiple members, you're then liable for each person that is involved in this corporation or limited liability corporation. And I really feel that at the time I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and really not evaluating the risks that I was taking, that I had uncontrollables with of other people's actions. And I feel that I take accountability. I had mortgage fraud because I was involved with real estate transactions that had illegitimate actions in the process. I feel that people that do have knowledge of real estate and from the investment side, there are a lot of moving pieces. Even when you have a closing attorney and accountants, you still have to have that knowledge and dot all your I's and cross your T's. So I think it's very important for just young people, people who, just because you're a college graduate, just because you've been successful in business, to know that when you are going into a new venture, you have to be very careful. You have to have good partners. You have to have a very strong knowledge, because you can't rely on others just because someone is telling you this is right. You're the one that's using your name and you have consequences. So for me, by making that mistake, I am a first time offender. So it was a lot of shame. It was a lot of guilt. It was a very stressful situation. And then understanding the judicial system where once I was indicted, you don't immediately get sentenced. I was on pretrial for 3 years where I was in Washington, D.C. on an ankle monitor. I thank God for my faith and resilience built from sports to continue working. I was able to work as a legal assistant in a law firm during those 3 years and really just start the process of learning from the mistake of having to educate myself, not relying on others, of what is actually going on and happening. So I was able to get a better feel of the judicial system. I was able to build a very strong relationship that I still have today with the lead attorney for this law firm that's actually in Washington, D.C. And he is a Georgetown alumni that hired me. And with that process, I worked for those 3 years and I didn't have any infractions, and I still was sentenced to an 8-year sentence. I then spent 5 years incarcerated, and it was a very high price to pay for one bad decision and trusting people and getting involved in things that I really just high level didn't have the knowledge of. But it was a life lesson. I really focused on my faith when I was incarcerated. I did a lot of self-help reading with books and working. I was able to get my forklift um, certification. So when I did leave being incarcerated during COVID-19, which we still have it going on now, the jobs were very limited because a lot of companies were laying off workers, but I was able to um, find a position with Pepsi, and I used my warehouse administrative skills and my forklift certification. And then I had mentors that I developed and my support system to continue where my focus is to get back into corporate and be a abiding citizen and be really involved in my community. So with that being said, I'm now in the Georgetown Pivot Program, which is a 10-month program. I'm transitioning where I will have employment with a corporation. I did some volunteer charity work with Catholic Charities, facilitating classes for returning citizens dealing with employment and understanding how to really be successful in the interview process as you tell your story. And I just encourage people that are listening tonight that, the reality is no one's perfect. Things happen. You have to be accountable for what happens, and you have to take the life lessons. And during your time of incarceration, you can't think of it as that. You have to just think of this experience of how am I going to better myself. Easier said than done. I'm very excited to be here to not only share my story, but just to be on this platform with people that have served the amount of time that they have and have the resilience to continue to have that drive and that faith, that knowing that, God has a bigger plan for all of us than we can even imagine. So, that's pretty much, I would say, a quick snapshot of my story. I definitely have to just be grateful and thankful for the support system of my family, the support system of my mentors. I just thank them all the time. And as you can see in my background, between faith and sports, I encourage young kids, I encourage adults. Sports brings leadership, resilience, teamwork. You're always dealing with obstacles, so it's a special and unique experience to be an athlete. It's not just about being a professional athlete or a college athlete, but being involved with sports can just change your life in a way that it prepares you for the unexpected, and to be able to persevere through that. So
I'm glad you said that. Thank you. And anyone that's tuned into this show knows that I'm a sports mom fanatic. And I have personal experience with that too, with just how many doors open and how just mentally you're prepared for so much as an athlete. It's if your kids are interested in sports, I really encourage you, as Victoria said, to have them pursue those dreams as well. I do have some questions, Victoria. And first and foremost, thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing your story with us. I can't imagine just meeting you and listening to you, the shock, I would imagine, of, first of all, finding out that you're actually committing a crime, and I don't know the specific details, but then to hear you're waiting and you have an ankle bracelet, you're still fortunate working at a law firm. So obviously some good support around you. But when that final sentence comes down that you have been convicted for 8 years, tell us what went through your mind then.
devastation. As Nikki said, it is nothing but God that kept my mind. I always pray to have a sound mind, that I didn't lose my mind. It was very, very, very difficult. And the reason for that is that my fight with the injustice, or the injustice with the justice system, is that I definitely know that every person has to pay a price for your actions. And unfortunately, there was people that lost money. I lost my monies. There was a lot of things that happened, and I'm very, very, very apologetic of what happened in that situation with the people who lost their monies and finances. But with all that being said, I feel that as a first-time offender, as an abiding citizen for so many years of my life, and being on an ankle monitor with a curfew for 3 years, and having to have drug testing. I've never done drugs, and people in that process of just understanding the humiliation of when you're getting drug tested week in and week out. And I'm going through this process for 3 years, and I'm employed. I don't have any infractions. I feel that then giving me a length of an 8-year sentence, to answer your question, everything that went through my mind was injustice, because the whole point of having incarceration is for rehabilitation. It's for rehabilitation. It's supposed to be for rehabilitation of citizens, where if you make a mistake, understand why you made this mistake and how you're not going to repeat this behavior and be an abiding citizen in your community. And I feel like for me, not only did I show that for those 3 years on pretrial, but 8 years, it wasn't going to change anything about me going backwards. I had already proven that. So should I have had time of incarceration? Yes, I feel like when you do a crime and you need to take accountability, I wouldn't have really objected to that. I do still feel as a first-time offender, even incarceration, of what it does to your family and the process of becoming a returning citizen to society. It's such a difficult process. You would never understand it until you go through it, because it's like someone just taking you out of one world and putting you in another, and then you go back to that world, and that world is evolving and changing. So when you're incarcerated, you don't have the technology, you don't have the intellectual power and the conversations and just the open-mindedness to seeing life. You don't see that. You have to create that to be successful, to survive as you come out of prison. And I just thank God, like I said, I had a sound mind. I had to be strong for my mother, my father, the individuals that had worked so hard to support me, to get me to the level that I was. I was at a very high level as far as a success for a person. And, it was very difficult, but tonight, I just want to encourage people that if I can do it, then anybody can do it. It is a difficult situation, but it builds strength that you never knew you had. And I feel like whatever God has is the calling on your life. I feel like for what I'm doing now, I'm a better person to do that, which is working in the community, being able to help others. And what I would like to continue to do with utilizing sports as a platform to help young individuals just know how this is going to help their lives, and not to make these decisions, not to make these bad decisions of trusting individuals. When your parents tell you, you only hang around certain people. If you hang around these people, you're going to become like these people. This is very real. You will pick up bad habits of people and it's not judging people, because people change, but you have to understand at that time, they may not be the people that you should do business with or that you should be partners with. So like I said, there are a lot of life lessons learned out of it. I would just say for me, the bottom line is it was very, very heart-wrenching to have an 8-year sentence as a first-time offender who made one mistake. And the reality is, when you are a returning citizen, it is not easy to get employment. It is not easy to be accepted in society, even though you have paid your dues. And I feel like that's why it's so important with this podcast that I'm a part of. It's returning citizens for returning citizens. You're talking over 3 million people that have been incarcerated, that actually have their own coalition, where if all of these people supported one another, supported each other's businesses, supported each other on their ventures and their nonprofits and what they're doing, they would be very, very successful. And I think that's the key to success, is that we have to support one another that are returning citizens after incarceration. That support system comes from people that have gone through this battle. And that's what I want to do.
Thank you. Well said, Victoria. And I just want to say, Red Fox says, wow, so proud of you, Victoria. And Mish McLean says, kudos to you, young lady. They just thank you for being so transparent and that you're powerful. Julius, I do have a follow-up question for you as well. From Nikki, she says, what was the turnaround time for you while you were incarcerated? Turnaround for you while you were incarcerated.
As soon as I got
turnaround.
Oh, I understand the question. as soon as I got incarcerated. It was the turnaround time. And I understand that because so many men that I've been time with, they wait 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and then the light, if you will, comes on. Well, for me, it was the day that I was arrested because, again, my mother, she always shared, son, get right. Son, do right. You're going to destroy your life. You're going to destroy other people's lives. So I heard it over and over. And then when it happened, it was like, and I'm sad to say it that way, but that's when I got to the jail. It wasn't even prison. When I got to the jail, I knew then that I had destroyed my life and it was time to try to give it to someone else. And that's where faith played a part in. So it was as soon as I got in.
And thank you. And Frederick says, did you find reading to be an escape while behind the gate or a path back to yourself?
Education. Yes, I read, I think the word is vociferously. I'm talking about I was a very avid reader and Scrabble player. I love playing Scrabble. So my vocabulary grew and I wrote as well while I was there. So, and as I did those things, people recognized that. And then I was asked to be a teacher, chaplain, aide, mentor. And so that's what helped me to get through actually 3 things. And I know we'll come back to that, but faith, family, and forgiveness were the 3 powerful points that got me through 26 years.
Thank you. I honestly can't even imagine what that's like, knowing that I can't go in the normal population for 26 years. Like, I can't even comprehend it like most people probably can't. So yes, we certainly will dive that deep into what your support system was with your faith, of course. Dr. Ron Garrett. Thank you for waiting so patiently. Good evening. Tell us about you and what happened on your journey.
And I'm going to be brief because I was raised in a Christian household, Baptist on my mother's side, Methodist on my father's side. So I was born with church in my blood, if you understand what I'm saying. So we were taught right. I had the luxury of having a father in my life that modeled what a Christ-like lifestyle should be like for a man. So I had absolutely no excuse whatsoever. I went off to college at 17 years old to North Carolina A&T State University to major in electrical engineering. It didn't take long after. If you can imagine being brought up in a Christian household, we partied a little bit, a little bit. You still had to be in by 10. You know, the party didn't even start at 10. I'm like, what are y'all talking about 10 o'clock? But nevertheless, so when I get to Greensboro, North Carolina at A&T State University, my major, it didn't take long for it to change from electrical engineering. And I took on a triple major, Julius, binge drinking, chasing girls, and partying. And I don't know if that's the right order that it came in, but that led me to actually being expelled from school, which I'm not proud of, but that did take place. My drug use and alcohol consumption over a 12-year period of time after leaving school caused me to become an alcoholic and a drug addict. Cocaine was my drug of choice. I ended up in 1998 being involved in an armed robbery, which was also, I guess, a first offense, if you would. But it cost me 20 years of my life. But like Julia said earlier, some people went off to prison. I didn't. I went off on a missionary journey and I went to college. That's the way I approached my whole incarceration experience. I think like Victoria, who did an outstanding job tonight, as well as Julius. They're doing great things, and there's a great calling on both of their life, and I'm glad to know them. But the thing that I focused on during my time on my missionary journey was, how can I make use of this time? It has to be, I have to make it up into a positive, because I can't get these 20 years back. So I knew that I had quit school. So I was fortunate enough to have a very supportive family that was able to help me get connected with an opportunity to finish a bachelor's degree in theology in 2009, a master's in ministry in 2010, and a doctorate in ministry chaplaincy services in 2012. And I say that because I spent my time on the inside preparing for what the opportunities and the doors that have been opened since I've been released. And a lot of people may not look at it this way, but each of us are allowed to go through certain things and to endure certain things. It may be to a negative to the people around you. It devastated my family, my wife, and my sons not to be there for those 20 years, but it changed my life, and it prepared me for the purpose that I was created for in the first place, which is to serve. And so I'm just elated for what has taken place as a result of that one bad decision. Though it took me 12 years to get my life off track, and 20 years to get back on the right track, I'm elated for what the road that is in front of me moving forward.
Thank you so much. So tell us about your family. You had a wife and son, one son at the time?
Two sons. I was married. My wife finished school in 1987. And I decided I was, because we're all super brilliant. Y'all know that, right? Did y'all didn't know that? I didn't need a college degree, right? I'm smart enough. I don't have to do it that way. I can figure out another way and still get to where I'm trying to go in life. But nevertheless, so we were married in 1990. In 1988, I have two sons. Brandon was born in 1989 and Dwayne in 1990. When I left the household or abandoned my family, that's the way that that's really, because that's the truth. That's what happened. They were 7 and 8 years old. And when I came home, they were 27 and 28 years old. And that is the most tragic thing that I've ever had to deal with my whole life. My wife, who we're still together, to me she is the personification of what agape love is. To go through that 20-year process so that I could be healed, you know what I mean? So, but I'm gonna come back to that. I gotta talk about something else. Y'all get me. Talk about something else. But I tell you, these conversations need to take place. And I'm so glad that you invited this group on to talk about this tonight, because society cannot continue to throw away people because they made a bad decision. Because I've watched people over the 20 years that I was in that environment grow up and get some sense, you know what I mean? And do the hard work to get themselves together, and then come home and nobody will give them a job, or the apartment complex won't rent them a place to stay. Those things are actually contributing to recidivism. That's why so many go back. Like Julius and Victoria and myself, we were able to come home to a loving, supportive family that had the financial ability. I mean, I was told when I came home, imagine this, you're not getting a job. Not yet. You don't need a job yet. What you need to do is get used to being out here again and learn what's going on. Be free for a minute. You know what I mean? But I meet people every day that have gotten out of prison that if they're not working in the next 30 days, they don't know, the household doesn't know whether the lights are going to be on or not.
Yeah.
Whether the children are going to have clothes for school. And so the decisions that are made in those situations are many times it's not the right thing. But I believe the community, after, with conversations like this taking place, when the community understands that we're all a part of the process for every individual who comes home, that's our family because they're a part of humanity. And we can only be as a society as good as the worst of these. So we need to come together and be more supportive in this reentry process. But my wife, I just unconditional love, forgiveness, grace, God's unmerited favor, all of those things. She didn't talk it. It wasn't something she read. It's something that she lives. And that changed my life.
Yeah. Wow. So I am truly honored to actually have all of you. I know you just thanked us for having you, but I mean, the information that you're sharing with us as a society is powerful beyond measure, because you're right. We do need to understand better that not everyone that goes in is a hardcore criminal, and there are people that do deserve a second chance. Human beings. I mean, everyone has made their mistakes, paid their time. What happens when you get out, and what happens if you don't have that support system? But I do want to talk about your wife a little bit, and I know it's a little emotional for you too, and for your boys as well. But take us back to what it's like for your wife. So you've been sentenced to 20 years.
20.
I mean, that's a huge chunk of your life, as well as Julius. And everything, like the whole world changed when you were there. I can't imagine coming out in 2020 right, or in the 1990s. And, technology has changed. Nothing is the same anymore. So those 20 years were some of the best years of your youth, because you're no longer a 33-year-old,
Right.
So tell us what that's like from a support system for my wife. What were some of the things your wife initially did because she went through her own shock too, left with 2 boys to raise.
Right.
And then a husband that you were probably the breadwinner for the family, right?
Right.
Was your wife working at the time?
She was working, but as you know, in this day and time, in the 80s and 90s, I guess when we were, we had two young sons wanting to live the American dream, and I wanted to live the life where I thought I was entitled to the life that my parents were living at that moment, and it never dawned on me. It took them 15, 20 years to get to that point. I wanted it now. So I tried to take some shortcuts, but nevertheless, initially when I went off to prison, of course, we can all imagine, she wanted nothing to do. She wanted absolutely nothing to do with me. Marriage until death do us part. We have these 2 sons, and we, a 2 income household, as you just pointed out. So things changed dramatically by my being removed from the household. My brothers, my parents, her brothers, sisters, both sides of the family came together as a village to make sure that Brandon and Dwayne were provided for. So it's a lot, which is what drives me today to push so hard to help society understand we must change the way this process takes place. I mean, my issue was substance abuse. What really should have happened, I really should have been mandated to go away to a drug treatment program for a couple of years. That's what should have happened. That would have been the right thing to do. And it has taken this country about 20, 25 years to now come to that point. We actually now have alternative sentencing courts, and those things are in place today when there's not been anyone physically harmed or anything. But, you know, she continued to work, continued to provide for our sons, bought a home by herself. Brandon and Dwayne both without a hitch, no problems through school. Both graduated high school, both are college graduates. Oldest son, Brandon, graduated from from the University of Murray State on a basketball scholarship. Played pro ball in Europe ever since he graduated school. Our youngest son, Dwayne, he went to San Diego State on a football scholarship, and then later transferred to Hampton University. He graduated college. They're both doing great, living life. Looking forward to both of them coming to visit us in Maryland here next month in April. I'm so much looking forward to it because we have a new grandson that was just born December the 9th. He's a little bit over a year old, ready to run around with him a little bit. But you know, life is it just, for me, it doesn't get any better than this. It doesn't get any better than this. So great family, just excited to be home and able to be in the place that I should have been all of those years.
Thank you. And thanks so much for sharing. I see the love when you talk about your family. I actually fell in love with them, and I'm so proud of your wife as a woman, the strength that it took and the family that came together to support you and her during this time of need, and that your boys are doing so successful. So thank you so much.
And I have to say, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut y'all, but I left out a few folks. I forgot about my our daughter-in-law, Brittany. Brandon's married. They have, like I said, the grandson, Bash. He's a little bit over a year old, and then Dwayne's fiance, Demetria. It's just we're just having a ball. Looking forward to hear from Phoenix in a few weeks.
Good, and congratulations on the grandbaby. And yes, a lot of statistics out there talk to how much money prison is actually generating. I read where it generates 81 billion is the annual cost to US taxpayers. And while police and court costs, bail bond fees, and prison phone fees generate another 100 billion in costs that are paid by individuals. So that speaks to, of course, you know, and something with Victoria as well, does the punishment fit the crime? You know, are we rehabilitating or are we punishing people, first-time offenders, fathers, grandparents, and what does that look like on the back end once they come out? So far, everyone has a supportive and loving family, but once again, not everyone has that. And then they do re-entry right back into the jail system because that support system isn't there. They feel safer in jail than dealing with reality as well. So that's a reality for some people. So thank you so much, Dr. Garrett. Miss Nikki, thank you for joining us tonight. Tell us about your story, your journey.
Hi, it's a journey. Still on. Well, I was a drug user. I used crack cocaine. I started when I was about 18 years old, back in 1984. I had a daughter. I had one child at that time. I just got caught. And my father was a preacher, so I am a preacher's kid. So, and I'm the ninth out of 10 kids. So I was, had a good home. Wasn't a strict home, wasn't a lot of money, a lot of love. And, they tell you, not to do this, not to do that. But of course, I went and did the opposite. So I was on crack cocaine ever since the 80s. I used to shoplift. So we used to shoplift to support our habits. So when we used to shoplift, and that was the thing, we would go and shoplift and come back and whatever. So eventually I went to jail. Actually, I went to jail once, but I've been to prison 4 times off the one charge. See, I was charged with strong arm robbery. Now, I only had a shoplifting case, but it escalated to a strong arm robbery. Now, if I would have known what I know now, I wouldn't have had that charge. But when you're, poor, you don't have attorneys, and you don't know any better, and you just want to get out, you just want to get out. And I wasn't, completely, rehabilitated. So I'm getting out on probation, then I get out on, the monitoring system, house arrest. So I'm going from one to the next stage. Every time I reoffend, and I go back, use drugs again and violate. But like, I think that was Dr. Garrett said, I should have been in rehabilitation. I never was offered rehabilitation. I asked, can I go and have, rehabilitation? And the judge told me to get it in prison. So that's what the choices I had. So eventually after, going to jail, in and out of jail, finally it escalated because it goes by a point system. So after that, you ended up, you get points, and I went off to prison. So I left 2 children, my oldest daughter and one daughter I gave up for adoption to family members. So, and the last time I came out of prison in 90, I think my first stint I did, back then they used to give you a lot of drops and so forth. So I had 4.5 years. That's what I ended up, with a shoplifting charge. So I had 4.5 years, and the judge didn't want to hear it, didn't want to, get it in prison. So eventually I had to get it in prison, get myself together in prison, because I see that I wasn't going to get any help outside. So I left 2 children, my gave one up for adoption. And by the last time I went to prison in 99, I got out of prison. I was, doing what they want me to do, going to work. I wasn't using drugs anymore. I was buying a condo, me and my boyfriend then, but he's my husband now. We, trying to, have a son, had my son in 97. So I had my son, and I'm living like society said to live. I need to get out and do what's right. And I did that. I wanted to do right. I was off drugs, and they came and knocked on my mom's door one day. I thought they was knocking for my daughter, because she was about 16 at the time, and she was, smelling herself. So I'm thinking they was coming. I just got off from work. I'm thinking they coming about her, and they came to come get me. I just had got off from work. My son was at daycare, had no idea that they were even looking for me. So when they let me out of prison in 99, they said that I had papers saying no probation, no parole. I was leased to my mom's address. So what they said, well, I had a 30-day parole sentence I should have done. I had $100 and some of restitution that I needed to pay, but that information never got to me. That information was sent to an old address that I used to live at, but I was released under my mom's address. So why would they send this information to that address? I don't know. But anyway, they came and got me and arrested me, and I didn't see home. And I had my son was about 3 years old at that time. So I had, I'm getting off from work. I'm at my mom's house. So they came and got me and arrested me, and nobody knew what was going on, because I was doing good, what society, I had a good job, thank God, I was able to get jobs, and, because they didn't back then, they didn't do a lot of backgrounds back then, but I wasn't really educated because I didn't go to school as much as I should have, but I wasn't dumb either. So I knew, how to talk. I know to talk my way to a job. If I get on a job, I'm gonna learn it, if they let me get in here. So I was working, doing good, almost about to buy my condo and everything. And they arrested me and said that I violated parole. So I lost a house, I lost my job, I lost my son, I lost so much, I lost me. And my mom, we had at that time, because my mom was the type, they was not gonna uphold your foolishness. Now, if you're trying to do right, my mom and my family are gonna be with you all the way. Now, when you're doing anything else, going the other way, they're not gonna uphold you. My mom was not that type, but she knew that what I was doing was right. So I had even the man that I was buying the home from, everybody was writing letters to the parole board. She's doing this, she's church members, pastors, everyone. They didn't want to hear it. I never seen the parole board to this day. They never acknowledged me. They just said, no, I had to do that remaining time. And I lost everything. So I told my mom after a while, they were fighting and trying to fight. I said, Mom, I said, don't worry. I said, the Lord got me here for a reason. I said, y'all might as well shut it up. I said, y'all might as well just stop everything. I said, because I know the Lord must have me here for. And I met my chaplain there. I met the chaplain there while I was in prison. And she started talking to me and, so forth and so on. And now, mind you, I am a preacher's kid. So I've been to church all my life. So that don't mean I knew Jesus. I've been to church, but I ain't know Jesus. So, now and when I got there, the Lord, I said, well, Mom, when I met my chaplain there, I told my mom, I said, Mom, the Lord has another plan for me. I say, so even though I was out, I wasn't using drugs and I was doing a good job and so forth, I still wasn't saved. I still wasn't doing what the Lord had called me to do. And that's to be saved and to really, be delivered and set free, that I'll be a help to others. So because I was just going along on my way, just doing my own thing, I'm taking care of me. I just want to not be on drugs. I want to have a job and I want to live like, society say live. But I wasn't helping anyone else. I wasn't helping anybody else coming along the way. The people that I left behind in prison, those addicts that I left on the streets. So I wasn't helping them. And so that's what, I knew then. I said, okay. So I, just did my time. I did about 18 months then. Wasn't a long stretch. People used to tell me, well, you're not even have a long time. That's long enough. That's long to me. I don't know, it may be not 20 years, but it was like 20 years to me, especially when I was doing good. It wasn't like I was using crack or anything at that time. So that was devastating to my whole family. And when, like I said, everybody's, in prison. When you go to prison, my children in prison, my mom and dad in prison, everybody's in prison. So, I just did my time and I came out. And, when I came out, I learned, people say you got jailhouse religion, whatever you want to call it. I said, I thank God for that last trip there. I said, because I learned how to, like be on these type of, platforms to talk about it, because it needs to be talked about. It needs to, people need to come home and know we do deserve another chance in life. It wasn't easy by no means. Even though I had my family support, I had to get a lot of doors slammed in my face. No, you can't have this job. I want to be a nurse. That's all I ever wanted to be. If I would have, been, but I couldn't go, and I would have had to go through a lot to become a nurse. So I just went on. I would have had to go before the nursing board, they would have had, so I didn't go that route. I could have went if I really wanted to, but I had to work. Being a nurse and trying to go through that, I had a son, but I just decided, you know what, it doesn't matter, you know, if I'm not a nurse, whatever I do, long as it is helping somebody else. So I just took the customer service jobs, and I've been working in customer service, everything. I had doors open up, and I had doors closed. You know, when the doors close, I just wait for one to be open. Because I tell, you know, when people, I do a lot of speaking. I used to do a lot of speaking, and I was a minister in my church. I'm from the AME church, and I was a minister in my church. And I told I said, I really don't prefer to be in the pulpit. I said, this is not where I'm supposed to serve. I like to be out there on the hedges and the highways where I left them at, because everybody ain't coming in the church doors. So they out there waiting for me, or to, because they know me. They know all the people in Pompano. They probably know Nikki Nelson, because they know I was, you know, I ran the streets down there. But now they see me today, you know, so you know, they have a different look to me, you know, and whether if they did or they don't, you know, it's the people, the teenagers now, the people now that need assistance, that no, and the first, don't go down this road. If you just first off, you got to make choices. You got to make the right choice. I told my son, me and his father both have prison backgrounds. So I tell him, I say, son, you can't, you know, look at your father and I say, you see the bed that we made for ourselves? It's a hard bed. I said, you don't want to go down that road. Don't go down that road, because like you said, Julius, they're not looking at, you know, what I am today. They only see what's on paper. They only see that I have a strong arm robbery. You know what they think? They probably think I had a gun, that I went to somebody and, you know, pulled out a weapon and all of that. It was a shoplifting charge that I wrestled with the one of the security guards, and they charged me with strong arm robbery. So, but nobody's not asking me why you got strong arm robbery. When they see that paper, that's a no. They putting it in the garbage. No, you can't have this job. But God. So there's, you know, one thing about it. When I got my faith and stand sure on my faith, I said, there's nothing that God can't do. I said, and I done got good jobs. I work for United Healthcare. I was home working. I said, if they only knew who they had home working in their department, they don't know, but God knows. You know, I work for check cashing places, taking $20,000, $30,000 to the bank. I said, if they only knew who this money had it in, they don't know. I say, but you know what? God knows. I say, see, don't never say, I know what God can do. I say, and ain't nobody did it but him. But I helped him.
They know tonight.
Huh?
They know tonight when they watch this.
Yes. Because it's not an easy road, though. It was a long journey for me. And still today, it's still things that I'm not qualified. I'm a homeowner now, but you know, I'm 55 years old. I should have been a homeowner 30 years ago with my sisters. You know, I should have been that, but that's okay. I'm here now. You know, so, I'm here now.
Thank you, Miss Nikki. And I do want to ask you, because you were on drugs, you were an addict when you were sentenced, right? Yes. What is that like for an addict going into jail?
Well, you be in there, you be like home, because everybody in there is addicts mostly. But it is, you know, it's devastating because you're locked up. You know, it's a really eye-opening situation. Because, you know, now I'm an addict and I can't get any drugs, which I don't need any drugs. But, you know, but every time I went to jail, I never tried, you know, because back then there was a lot of smuggling drugs in jail. You know, it was real lenient, you know, back in the 80s and 90s, you know, so they was doing a lot of bringing in drugs, but I was not about to get high in that jail and can't get out. So I was, you know, it was a devastating thing to be locked up on drugs, but I knew that's what I needed. I knew I wasn't stopping on my own. It wasn't like going to jail ain't always a bad thing. You can make it bad or you can make it good. So you got to go in there. What are you going to do with this time when you go to jail? So you going to lean over there with the same people you hang with on the street, or you going to go over here and try to be with those who's trying to do better? So you got to make a choice in jail, because in jail is easier. You don't get the drugs as easy, but they get them in there. But it is easy for you. You need to know what you want to do when you go to jail. So what am I going to do in this jail? I got my GED when I was in jail. You know, I did some things in jail that I wasn't able to do on the outside, because you don't have the time when you out there. So like, you know, Dr. Garrett and Victoria, we use that time wisely going into jail. So when you get there, you know, I have a support system. I had my mother and my sisters, and we are very loving, close family. But you know, you in jail, so you know, only so much they can do and say to you on the phone and write you a letter. So you're gonna have to take your mind and what am I going to do in this jail? And because my chaplain used to always tell me, she said, it's easy in here for y'all here. She said, it's what I'm preparing you is for on the outside. We think jail is hard. No, trying to live responsibly when you get home is hard. When you've been in jail all this time, you don't never raised your children. You ain't never had a real job or did anything but out on drugs and stealing. I said, when you come home and you trying to sit up straight and, you know, hold a job or don't get a job, or people expecting you to, you know, do this 360 when you come home, you know, and that don't always happen. You know, it's hard when you get out here. Jail is easy because you're restricted to a lot of things. You got to go to bed, get up, do what you're going to do, and then preparing to get home. Because see, when you get home, those are the hard choices you got to make. When I get home, what am I going to do? What is people expecting of me? You know, what am I expecting of myself? You know, I got children, you know, I never raised my girls, you know, so they big girls now, they grown women, you know, so I just try to tell my son, you know, don't travel down that road, you know, stay off that path. You know, you don't have to get that good, quick money. Ain't nothing quick in this world. The struggle is real. You know, you're going to have to go in school and, you know, get a job, and you're going to have to make it. And when you get there, you'll arrive. Don't try to arrive before your time. So when you try to arrive before your time and make these shortcuts, there is no shortcut to life. There is no shortcut. So going to jail was not the hard. It was devastating, but it wasn't hard. Getting home and trying to live in society that you ain't never lived in, right, is the hard part. But it can be done.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And Mr. Dudley, thank you for patiently waiting. Tell us about you, Mr. Dudley. We have to unmute you first, though. Mm-hmm. There you go.
All right. Can you hear me? Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay. First of all, we're going to back up to when I was 3 years of age. My father, you know, he was driving a dump truck during that time, and that was 1958. And he would pull up, you know, I'm the fifth child of 7. My mother was pregnant with the 7th child at the time, 1958. And he would always get out his truck and always play with his kids and everything before he go inside. One day he pulled me to the side, you know, because I'd jump in the truck and be shifting the gears and everything. And he said, "Calvin." And I said, "Yes, sir." You know, he was tall, had the curly hair like Ashford, and mom was kind of like built like Valerie Simpson. So it was an ideal couple. And he said, "You the man." And I'm looking at my father, I'm like, the man, 3 years of age. So to make a long story short on that episode, he died a month later. I was devastated. So now I'm trying to figure out the man. So 3, I turned to 5. We're going to move pretty fast with this. I stepped before my mother. I said, I'm the man. She said, how can you be the man? You're only 5 years old. But that changed and transformed me into authoritativeness as I grew up. Now, high school, I was very exceptional, made good grades, played football, was in the band, Calvin Dudley. Went off to college, Florida A&M University, and I was a part of the Marching 100, major in education. I graduated in 4 years, enjoyed my life there. Move a little forward, I was the first person to graduate. I was in the first graduating class from Boyd Anderson, the first person to come back and teach the Boyd Anderson. I made history there. I'm just riding, enjoying my life. Left there, went to FAU while I'm teaching at Boyd Anderson, and I certified in certification in all areas of exceptionality. Those are behavior modification, specific learning disability, etc. Now, riding high on the hog, teaching, doing everything I want to do, coach football, permanent figure in society. Now, Mr. Dudley became Cowboy. Now, Cowboy enjoyed the nightlife, happy hour, hanging out, that led to cocaine. The master high, flying high in the friendly sky. You feel like you larger than life, which that led to prison. At the time, I was married with Calvin. At the time of my incarceration, I think Calvin went, they gave me 15 years for possession and trafficking. Wow. I have an ideal family, everything going for me, community. They got me in the front page. Mr. Calvin Dudley, Broward County school teacher, Man, I'm out of there. Everybody that I thought was friends, was out here bragging. Man, they done knocked Dudley off the map. So now we go to one number. I want you all to focus on the number 8. Someone spoke about that earlier. The first 8 months of prison, I landed in Reeford. You have FSP. You have 5 prisons, Union, FSP work camp, New River. So when I got off the bus, it's cold. And the officers, they look like they 6, the height 6'6", 6'8", size 15, 18 shoe. And I looked around, it was nothing but prisons. But I had to psych myself out. I said, okay, wow, I got 15 years. This college all over again, but it's, I just say it's college all over again, but no female. So now that's the way I kind of like adapted. But the number 8 come in because the first 8 months I was going through changes, transforming from society in there, following rules and regulation. You got to sit up and count. Everything, is suppressed. They try to keep you suppressed. But by the favor of God, I had good jobs. I was a colonel, the warden orderly. I was a dental orderly. I was able to help people. I was able to, write letters for people that couldn't even write. After the first 8 months, I never looked back. But what led me to that, one night I was trying to call to find my wife, and I couldn't get in contact with her, and I was just beating the phone. And this guy had a 3-life sentence. He said, Calvin, come here a minute. He said, what you doing? I said, man, golly, nobody answered the phone. He said, man, you got to forget about everything outside of that wall. And I was like, whoa. He said, man, you only got 15 years. I got 3 life sentences. And the guy sleep next to you from Fort Pierce. Yes, we never going home. You got a chance to go back. At that moment, I looked out the window, all you can see is bars, wires, wires, wires. It was a Friday night. I know everybody was having a good time. I prayed about it. I said, wow, let everything go. It's about survival. I'm in Rayford. That's the capital for prisons in Florida. FSP is the only prison. The rest of them is correctional institutions. and I'm looking out of the window right at FSP. There's no coming back from there. I never looked back. I never looked back. So I started utilizing my unlimited resources, my educational background, my strong makings. Because let me tell you something, when you get off that bus, I don't care how big you are, how tough you are in the streets, them guys be looking at you like this. They be measuring you. So only a matter of time before they break down the element of you. But God, I prayed, I played chess, I helped people that needed help, holidays, because I was fortunate. I had a cousin that kept me stocked with, a nice income in prison. So I was able to look out for other people. Playing chess is strengthening my mind. Read a lot of books. I do my Bible study. I walk the track. That's all I did and help people. But as time progressed, after 5 years, they moved me from Rayford down to DCI. So as you progress closer to home, you think everything is going to get rosy, which everything got worse. You think people are with you. People are no longer with you because people's lives go on and on. But I'm going to be honest with you. I did 14 years out of 15 years for good behavior. I prepared myself for the downfall because I listened to people in there that's never come on. They say, man, as time progresses, you'll be able to handle situations. You can't handle them all in the first 8 months. But as time progresses, this person step out of your life, that person step out of your life. But I just saw a light at the end of the tunnel. And that's what kept me motivated. So as time progressed, my time is becoming less. So now I come out 2011, highly motivated. I had to walk. Rejections, when you are not faithful, when you're not strong at anything, people tell you, whenever a person tells me I can't, I always ask them why not? Why I can't do this? So I took what I could take, didn't overboard it, but I walked. I had a 10-year plan. Matter of fact, April the 2nd, I got out 2011. April the 2nd, in a week or so, would be 10 years. And I'm on course with my plan. I started writing in there. I started setting up educational programs. I started setting up, I brainstorm on concepts. When I meet people, I'm an inspirational speaker now. I started that when I got out. I started my foundation. God said, you're not going to make no money off it. Give back. Some kind of way in the midst of doing that, God provide for me. So anybody that know Calvin Dudley from here to New Zealand, they know every morning at 4 o'clock, I'm up. I go out to the ocean. I meditate. It's every morning. I'm still on prison time for us waking up because that's tranquil time. It's dark. You had to wake up in the rain, the hurricane or whatever. You got to walk probably a half a mile or whatever. It depends on the size of the compound. But all that endurance was preparing me for now. When I was in there, I stand to the gate and I look out. I don't see prison in my mind. I was seeing the beach. I was seeing riding down 95 in a nice car. I was seeing going on vacation. I'm living all that now. It says write things down. Every chance I got, I wrote educational stuff down. I wrote this and that. I'm living that now. I breathe life into it. I breathe oxygen into it. My grandkids, when they come visit me, they can't even have fun until they do a task. Because I'm all about education. I'm all about empowerment. I'm all about inspiration. So that was just a transition for me. I lost everything. But you got to realize this. When they chopped me down and put me in Babylon, they left the stump. God said, I got to put all the prefixes back on this boy. Y'all be prepared for Calvin Dudley when he returned. Now I'm living a life. I give back. I help people. I do this, I do that. I don't worry about what I'm going to get paid. I don't worry about this and that because I keep the same routine. God say, my word will not come back void. So everything, I was talking to Dr. Lisa who I did my own business. I did a presentation for, and I was explaining to her, I said, you know what, people are beginning to talk about, Calvin, we may try to get you to run for office. You know, ex-convict. And I would love to get up there and tell them where I come from and what I stepped into, newness, my new horizon. That's the number 8 for the young lady that was just speaking. 8 months in, then when you come 8 months out of prison, it's still transition. 8 minutes with God. I got everything set around 8. 8-step program for kids. I got everything set around 8. And everything I wrote with on Psalms 51, create a new heart in me, restore a steadfast spirit. Do not take your hand from me, God. Because I wanted my cake and eat it too. It's not their fault that I got 15 years. I had to come into acceptance. When you come into acceptance, now God can start working from the inside out. When I became an inspirational speaker, I don't need to get into all that elegant stuff. I spread my wings every day on Facebook because I'm not a sparrow. Sparrow deals with drama. I don't deal with drama. I soar over it. So I'm all about motivation, encouragement. It's simple about Calvin Dudley. My makings is a royal bloodline. I'm a strong person. I guess I had to go through that to get to this. If I would have beat that case, everybody talking about, well, you shouldn't have did this, you shouldn't have did that. God had a plan all the time.
Yeah.
God said, I'm going to take him through this to get him on this show right now. If I would have beat that trial, man, I would have thrown a big party, sat back with a cigar in my mouth, said they didn't have nothing on me. I'm not going to go into detail. So I did my 15 years, 85%. Didn't come out to nothing. I had to walk. Friends riding by because they called me Cowboy, my nickname. Cowboy, what's up? I had to walk, catch the bus, walk. Now look at me now. God has blessed me. I got a beautiful wife now. Who I knew her when she was a little girl, but we separated. God have a funny way of working things out. Everybody spoke tonight. God had a plan for you.
Yeah.
That's why you see me holding my head sideways, laughing and smiling. You did what you had to do. Now just chill and let God just watch the signs and wonders. It's not by chance we own this tonight. And I'm going to tell you something, I'm going to prophesy. This is not the only thing that's going to happen for us.
Yeah. And I thank you so much, Mr. Dudley. I thank you all once again. I'm so honored that you all have shared your journey with the Caribbean Edge and the viewers. You have all spoken about, just the positivity that the mindset, the mental mindset that you've had to put yourself in, the acceptance stage that you had to go through as well, and all that you're thankful for. And if anyone watching this feels ungrateful for any moment in life, I mean, this episode is certainly inspirational because you're certainly inspiring me and making me even more grateful than I am because life is so precious. I do want to go around though and ask every single person on this panel, what else do you want to share with us, especially when it comes to, rehabilitation as far as the support? A lot of you spoke to the families that supported you while you're there as well as once you're out. But, if you know of any programs, you're involved in programs now, is certainly the time. I'd love for you to mention those as well. So let's go back to Victoria. Victoria, anything you want to share with us?
Yes, I'd like to share 2 things. First and foremost is your faith in God. For me, if I'm giving someone advice, whether you're a returning citizen, you're a person going through obstacles, trials, and tribulations, is just rededicate yourself and focus on God, and He will give you the direction that you need to be in and the purpose of why you're here. The second thing that I would just give a testament to is the Georgetown Pivot Program is a program for returning citizens, and it really speaks to the value of education, having the opportunity to have business courses with Georgetown professors, having the ability of a unbelievable staff that's giving you the support and foresight to be a leader, to make something that happened to you just another stumbling block that happened in your life, and to be successful. And then the entrepreneurship piece, they really want to see people that have creative ideas to be able to set up proper businesses, and to be able to help provide jobs for not only returning citizens, but employment for the population in the United States. It's always, especially now as we see employment very difficult, if you're able to be a successful entrepreneur, you're able to give opportunities to people to sustain their families. So I would just leave it with, have your determination and resilience. And as a returning citizen, look to getting involved with programs that are going to continue to keep you focused and bring value and give you tools to better yourself.
Thank you, absolutely. And I'm so proud to hear that from Georgetown as well. That's awesome that we're doing that. Thank you. How about you, Julius?
I guess I was fortunate to, since I've been home, have a platform of a TED Talk. I did a TED Talk on how we people versus recidivism. Not another prison, not another program, but people investing in the lives of other people. And since then, I've been partnering with Dr. Garrett with Reentry United, and we want to connect dots. There are so many returning citizens who are looking for a hand to help. And in the story that I was sharing, if we all were to just join hands, we can stop many men and women from falling through the cracks. And so I think what I would share in closing is just look for somebody, whether you're in church, whether you're in your community, whether you're in your neighborhood. If you see somebody, a returning citizen, give them a hand, whether it's mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever way, because they want to succeed. They want to do right. And lastly, I just came from a meeting. We have a meeting here in Savannah called OAA Savannah, Offender Alumni Association. And what we do is we encourage returning citizens by sharing their story. If you succeeded, I can succeed also. We also educate by dialoguing so that the community will come together, look for that man or woman that's coming home and be there for them. And then lastly, empowering them by allowing them to know that there are resources available to them. Once a person knows that they have these resources, it will empower them. So I would just say, connect the dots wherever you are, and this will help.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And once again, I'm so happy that you joined us tonight. And I know your faith, family, and forgiveness. So I wrote that down as a takeaway from you as well. Thank you, Julius.
Welcome.
Nikki?
I would just like to, let them know it's not easy when you come home. If anybody's watching and they got family or friends or whomever that is in there or just came home, we don't want a hand out all the time. We need a hand up. We want to do right. It's more people wanting to do right than you think. But coming home and getting back into society, this is a fast world we live in. It is not easy. It's not easy, but it's possible. It's possible if you just hang in there, keep your head on your shoulders and want help. You got to reach out. There's plenty of help. Use this platform and use the internet. There's a lot of internet. It's so much stuff out there on the World Wide Web. If you want help, reach out and get help. And most of all, I don't know any other way to tell people about getting off drugs. I just went to Jesus. I didn't never get afforded to go to a program. I wanted to go. I don't know if the program works. It didn't work. They didn't let me go. So God wanted to get all this glory. He wanted to get the glory of me being, crack free for 25 years. You know, he wanted to get that glory. He will help you if you want help. And it is not easy, but it is possible. We just gonna have to walk it. When we get ourselves in trouble, I tell my son and my grandchildren, I live for them now. I try to keep them on the straight and narrow. You know, I tell them, I say, y'all listen, you're looking at me. I am a survivor. I say, I'm telling y'all, I know the streets way better than y'all know the streets. Y'all just young. You know, they don't really know the streets. I say, y'all just want fast, want now. You want everything now and fast. It is not now and it's fast. It's about endurance. You're going to have to run this race with endurance. You're going to have to wait patiently and wait on that job that's going to come. You might have to start at a restaurant working when you come home. You got to start somewhere. You can't expect, you know, well, they're not letting me. There's jobs. I had plenty jobs when I came home. They weren't the ideal jobs, but I worked. And when that opened the doors, when God see you step in and being humble for that, you know, the multiply that he'll give you. I just come from working with United Healthcare, working from home. You know, I have good jobs. And now I'm retired now. I'm trying to just raise my son. He's 23. I'm trying to get him up and off, you know, and I try to go to the ministries and talk to the young people, the old people. You know, I see people at the store and they handing out for money, and I love to give out money, but I always tell them, I say, I can tell you a story that's way worse than yours. I say, so don't tell me about where you coming from and what's going on. Because if I tell you my story, then your story probably is way better than mine. So I know I'm giving you this out of love. I'm not giving you this because I feel bad for you. So, because we don't, you know, you there because a lot of you're not going to be able to save. You know, everybody don't want to be saved, but those who wants to be saved, there's a savior, and his name is Jesus. And then he have all these other platforms that he has all these other people here for you to reach out to, but you got to reach out. Don't nobody know you won't help if you don't tell them. So my son always tell me, Mom, why you tell everybody your prison stories? I said, because people don't know what to pray for if I don't tell them. You know, they don't know if I need a job. They don't know I'm going through if I don't tell them. I'm not ashamed where I came from. I said, if people don't know what you need, then how they gonna know? I say, he, you know, I don't want him to be ashamed of me. I tell my son, I don't want you to be ashamed of what I did or where I come from, because that is not your direction. What I did is not your direction. So don't be ashamed about what you did. You know, don't be ashamed. Whatever you did, you've done, and that's not who we are. We were made bad choices. That's all. We made bad choices. We are not a prisoner that, you know, don't want to do anything. I know they're always talking about people coming from prison. Oh, they got the prison religion. You know, they come home. I said, people really want to be changed, but y'all don't give them a chance to change. You know, because y'all tell them that, you know, they coming home and they asking for money. Yeah, they asking for money. They don't got no money. So, you know, but that ain't all they want. You know, they want help. But we as a community have to stop, you know, and help and reach out, give them a hand up, not always a handout.
Yeah, and there's some great people out there helping too. So we want to thank the people, the businesses that are out there opening up their doors and helping people that are re-entering. And Nikki, I know retirement looks pretty good. I know a lot of people look forward to that. It's a great time to retire. So congratulations on that. And also so proud that you can share your journey, because I know for the younger generation, they probably say, you know, why are you telling your story so much? It's embarrassing. But at the same time, you never know how much your words are impacting someone else that really needs to hear this tonight. So thank you.
Yeah, and like I do at church, because, you know, I don't want people to see me dressed up. You know, this is how I look, you know, yeah, but this is you see my glory, but I do have a story. Because then when you start talking, you never know what the same individual talking about their family, and there's somebody in their family and it just goes on and on. People start to open up. When one open up, everybody opens up. So
Yes.
it's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yes, yes. And you're helping so many. And all of you said how much it changed you and made you refocus your life on some things you were doing really, really poor choices. And it allowed you, maybe it saved your life, who knows, because you were on such a tragic path to begin with. Mr. Dudley, anything you want to share with the world? We're going to have to unmute you.
Okay. I like simplicity in any in the midst of a traffic jam. That's the way I put it. I guess I'm a unique person with my thought process. Most of us spend half of our lives just learning ourselves. I just feel like with faith and everything is really inside of you. A lot of people went to prison. A lot of people had cancer. It's different plagues. A lot of people dealing with COVID. Some people don't have COVID. So my serious part of life, I went through prison. I was highly educated. I was this, I was that. So it was time for that. And at a crucial time in my life. But I wanted to share this. I can remember when I was 32 and I was having this big party. And my sister-in-law, we walked out on the balcony and we were just looking up and she said, I was looking at you on the microphone and you looked like you were sounding like you had everybody mesmerized. You were sounding like you were a pastor. I said, wow. Then as we were talking, I said, you know what? I feel something funny happening in my life when I turned 40. And that's 8 years. We back to that number 8. I was 32 at the time. I'm gonna end it with this. Something big did happen. I caught a case on top of the world, headed towards superintendentship, but that cowboy image, I'm not ashamed to say it. That cowboy image submerged Mr. Dudley, cut Mr. Dudley off. But you got to realize this. In the midst of everything we go through, God had a plan. And I embraced that. Each one of you all, God had a plan. My broken relationship with my kids was restored. God had a plan. I'm living my life now. God had a plan. So if I want to look at 14 years, my body was preserved for 14 years. I'm 65 now. I'm living a good life. God had a plan. You got to embrace that. I enjoy life. I enjoy every minute. My wife be like, Lord have mercy, I be glad because he got so much energy. I can't even wait to get up the next morning. Excitement, energy. So let's say what I employed for the younger generation all the way up to 99. That platform that I have, when the seniors and the kids walk down that 12-foot long carpet onto the platform, I motivate. So in the process of motivate, I'm gonna cut you off. Because if I see this child headed the wrong way, I'm gonna cut you off. I want you to be an eagle. Mr. Dudley, why y'all wait? I say, I want you to be just like that. I don't want you around here getting involved with this little petty stuff. I'm not ashamed to say what size shoe I wear. You can't be me because a lot of people want to portray you. You can't be me. I put to be. You wear a size 10. So you got to be the best of you. I don't care if you was on crack. I don't care if you shot heroin. I snorted powder. And every time I snorted powder and I sold powder, I thought I was on top of the world. But I know something about that word. When I felt on my back. I didn't fall on my stomach. And each one of you all fell on your back. So God was able to bring you back up. So my thing is back to motivation, catch these kids. One thing about these young kids, if they can't talk to you, they're going to find somebody on this media to talk to. Them little girls, 13 and 14, Fort Lauderdale, Miami is #1 in prostitution. They're taking these kids. They got to have awareness. If they're out to the mall, do not open the door if you see a tenant with a van. I'm seeing all this happening. I'm saying all that, and you don't see these kids no more. Fort Lauderdale Miami is a prime area. It's a lot going on beyond them doors. I go to pick up my granddaughter the other night. It's 1,000 kids, and all I'm fighting, it ain't 13 or 14. It's a different world out there. Pay attention to your kids. If they're trying to talk to you, listen. Don't have the answer all the time. My granddaughter was 15. Granddad, I need to talk to you. I drove over there. I picked up, I took her to a lake. Calm her down because I love water. So it was really nothing. The little boy kissed you, so what? So I told her what I did when I was 15. But that opened the door. We can communicate. She don't have to go on the media, a guy acting like he's 14 and he's 35. Watch your kids, grandkids. So my thing is empowerment. Hey, look for signs and stop having the answer for everything. Because we tell them what we did, what they should do, and they looking at us like, Daddy, it ain't like that now. So sometimes you got to get inside the question. I found that out instead of having to answer all the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dudley. I appreciate that. All right, and Mr. Dr. Ron and Garrett, our last guest. We so appreciate you all being here. What do you have for us in closing, and how do people find your project? We have to unmute you as well.
Yep. I said, again, I'm going to be brief, but I do appreciate being invited to the Caribbean Edge tonight. And it was just a pleasure to share and hear all these amazing stories. But I want to say that as a community around reentry, one of the things that's very much overlooked is reentry programming on the inside of prisons. The community must put pressure on the prison system to put in place a comprehensive reentry program in every state and federal system across the country. That's greatly overlooked. People shouldn't just be in prison sitting around rotting away. They need to have the tools to be prepared to be successful when they reenter. Georgia has done a great job with that. Prince George's County, there's two components to this situation. Reentry is the programming that takes place on the inside. Reintegration is what takes place in the community when returning citizens are released. Prince George's County, DC, Savannah, that's Reentry Action Network. It's a coalition of nonprofits that have come together to pool our resources that we might be able to deliver effective and efficient reentry programming for returning citizens when they come home. Reentry United is a national coalition of organizations to talk about how can we collaborate on a national scale, on a national level, to make the situation in every region of the country better as it relates to reentry programming on the inside and reintegration programming when people come home. Second Chance Awareness Month is in the month of April. There are events all across the country to bring awareness to the community of the need to remove the collateral consequences associated with having a felony record. Collateral consequences. Just because I have a felony, even though my job pays me enough money to afford this apartment, they won't rent it to me or to returning citizens simply because I have a felony. There are certain jobs you can't have simply because you have a felony. That shouldn't be. How can we truly give returning citizens a second chance unless we remove those barriers? Lastly, we would like to invite everybody to please join us on April the 24th for the first National Returning Citizens Virtual Conference. And I can't go into all of that whole thing. We'll be here for another hour. So I'm gonna send all of this information to our wonderful co-host, and our wonderful host, I'm sorry, could we all give our host a hand tonight? You did a great job, Don. We really appreciate you for having us, for moderating these stallions that you got here, because we all, as you can see, we all love to talk. But this event, we already have former governor of Georgia, Nathan Deal, slated to speak at this event. Congressman Bobby Scott, Senator Rob Portman. And I'll go on and on, but I'm not gonna, but if you have any passion for assisting returning citizens, reducing mass incarceration, reducing recidivism, and giving families the opportunity to be whole again, you want to be a part of this event. And our host, Ms. Wilson, is gonna make sure that everybody gets that information. And we appreciate you having us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Garrett, and for sharing that. So that's April 24th, and we'll certainly share it with you on the Caribbean Edge. Once again, beautiful guest. I can't thank you enough for sharing your journey with us and for being vulnerable to us, but also to make everyone aware. And so for the youth that may watch this, that they may choose to learn something from it. From us adults, just the appreciation that we should have for life. Every moment is so important. And you've all shown me that you could also it could happen to almost anyone, just making that bad choice, especially when you're young. And in Victoria's Place, just being naive to certain things can allow you to. And I see Dr. Garrett has one other thing he wants to share. Go ahead.
For the young folks, because I didn't say that, the greatest treasure that you're ever gonna have access to is the old bald-headed man, gray-haired women that surround you who are trying to give you wisdom. If you will listen to them, even when you disagree yourself, when you're making a decision, old bald-headed men, gray-haired old women, listen to them. It'll save you a whole lot of heartache and pain.
Thank you. Great word. So listen to your parents, listen to advice, and just take it. And thank you to our viewers. I know we didn't get to all your questions. I invite all the guests to go in and respond. So some of those questions may be for you. Have an amazing week, everyone. Once again, my name is Dawn Wilson from the Caribbean Edge. Love to all. Have a great night. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.